So growing up, I came from a family with two brothers and a sister, and played sport pretty much my whole life, got involved in all kinds of team sports. And then I decided to go to university, and I wanted to do something involved with martial arts. So I tried a few things, boxing, I did a bit of MMA, but it was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that I really got involved in from the get-go, really. I also worked on the doors when I was at university. I was a bouncer on the nightclubs. So obviously doing Jiu-Jitsu came hand in hand with the job, and that's pretty much one of the main reasons why I started. But to be honest, as soon as I started training Jiu-Jitsu, I was hooked. I was doing it every day, lunchtime, evening, and that's it. Been doing it for 15 years now.
Yeah, so I first got into Jiu-Jitsu, it's kind of by accident really. So I've done martial arts for years, and basically I remember I was at Japanese Jiu-Jitsu club and I was doing a bit of judo, and I remember like Googling about martial arts and different ones, and I remember seeing about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the emphasis of ground fighting. And I just didn't really, it was just a throwaway. I thought, oh, I'll see what this ground stuff is, you know, because I'd done Japanese Jiu-Jitsu and Judo a bit, and, you know, sometimes you'll end up on the ground. I didn't think much of it. And then as I came down, I remember like training, and I just remember my ass getting handed to me. Like, I just got absolutely annihilated. I remember like this purple belt just ran a clinic on me. And I just thought, like, who is this guy? He's like half the size of me. Like, what is it that made him so good that he could just batter me? I've done martial arts for years. He's one of my best friends now, actually. He's a black belt. But yeah, I just remember getting battered by him and just wondering, like, well, what is this? Like, I remember going home and thinking, like, wow, how did that happen? And that started off a lot of it with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
When I was in uni, my best friend used to train Jiu-Jitsu. She has trained by then for about two years maybe. She's competed as well, and I was really impressed by what she's done and the skills that she had already. And she showed me some things, some moves, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. So she took me to class, and I loved it. It was a love at first sight. Really enjoyed it, and yeah, I never looked back since. Yeah, definitely, it was like one of the best things I've ever tried in my life.
Coming in, like, going through all like the psychological stuff that I have, to have something where, you know, you've got a lot of positivity, it's something that does motivate you, you feel a lot happier. It gives you like a release. Like, I have a lot of stress, and then I come in here and I see the guys, and I just put my gear and I tie my belt, and I just bow on, and that's it. Like, everything else just disappears. You know, when you like come in sometimes, you just roll with the guys and you just lose yourself. You get like lost in that like mechanical movement, that flow, and you just can't describe it. It's like, I just fade away. It's like I meditate, and it's like that same experience, you're just gone. And when you get to do that in a place like this, where it becomes like a home, you know, it's my family, like, these are my friends, my best friends. And it kind of gives you a place where you don't feel lost anymore, like, it's just a place where you belong. Like, we're all so different, but we always know, like, you can come sit down on the mat, and no matter who you are, you've always got that place that you can go. You know, you come down, you fancy a bit of food, you just want to talk sometimes. Like, you just put your gear on and just sit and talk. Like, there's no other place quite like it. So I say to anyone, just get into it, because it gives you somewhere that you actually feel worth it for once. You know, you actually feel like you kind of belong to something. Yeah, that's why I do it.
So for me, Jiu-Jitsu has always been a great release after work, or when I was at uni, it was a great way just to relieve a bit of stress. It was also, I also always struggled with my weight a little bit, so doing any physical activity has always had its benefits. But when you're doing jiu-jitsu, you don't really have time to feel tired because it's so technical and physically demanding. You're always constantly on the move, so it's a great way to stay fit. It's a great way to condition your body. So that's probably one of the major benefits for me. Another aspect of it is the social aspects. Everybody in jiu-jitsu in the gym, you're all on the kind of the same wavelength. So it's a great group of friends. We all go out to eat together. We all go out for a drink. We have lots of social events. We go on camps. So it's brilliant. It's brilliant mentally as well as physical activity.
I would say there's a lot of things that you learn without even realising. A lot of people learn how to leave their ego behind the door, and they sort of learn how to be a bit more humble, especially when they first start training and they get, completely, I wouldn't say destroyed, but they lose a lot in sparring with people that are, for example, a lot smaller than them, but they've got better technique, and they get to learn that actually how much you bench press is not relevant anymore. But for myself, I think I've been a lot more confident since I started training. I always think if I've got a very stressful, uneasy situation to go into, I think to myself, if I can step on a mat and train with 40 guys and spar with them at the end of the class, I think I can handle whatever situation life puts in front of me. So yeah, I'd definitely say there's a lot of sort of byproducts of training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if you can call it like that.
A lot of through primary school, I got bullied anyway. Always called the fat kid, which is funny because I didn't really get any less fat. I just got dense and could kill people. Yeah, I had that through primary school, and then at secondary school, I remember it got quite bad. I think it was in year 9 or 10, and there was this guy that just he had it out for me, something chronic. He just had issues, I think from what I've heard, he's had some family problems and he had a lot of insecurities. So then he projected a lot of that onto me. And as I kind of went through that, it got to a point when I just felt scared, I couldn't ever really confront him. He's half my size, but I just lacked confidence. I didn't know how to fight. And when you're growing up, you go to school where people are yeah, they are tough. There are some scary people. We did have it where occasional people linked to things like gangs or drugs, crime, and it wasn't a bad school, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm from the ends or anything like that, but yeah, it does scare you, especially when you're not exposed to that. That's not where I grew up. I grew up somewhere that was nicer. I grew up in a nice area, and that was really intimidating to me to be around that. And after a while, bullying, it starts to make you feel less confident in yourself. You start to feel you lose a lot of self-worth. Even when I went to college, I always felt really bad about my body image. I had a lot of self-loathing for a lot of years, and I guess this kind of gave me an outlet to try and change that physically and a lot of who I was. And it just made me not feel scared anymore. I can walk down the street and I don't feel worried that it's not as bad. Someone starts or something, I sit there and think I can protect myself. I don't have to sit there worrying about if someone's gonna attack me or a girlfriend, if anything happened to my girlfriend, I'd be in bits, things when I've had it before, when someone starts and you're with a friend and I'm able to step in now and be the one who goes, right, you're not going to hurt us because I know that you'll be the one who's going home tonight in an ambulance, it's not me. And that makes you feel a lot less scared. I can walk through town and think I'm not going to be hurt anymore. And I can enjoy myself. I've got a lot of fun that I wasn't able to. It's made me feel a lot more positively about who I am. It's made me accept myself. It's made me love myself a lot, actually. You kind of learn to embrace who you are, and it gives you that real confidence, and you don't feel like you're under threat anymore.
I think it's super important for women to learn self-defense in one way or another. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is probably one of the best ways to learn self-defense, as it is a martial art that's sort of designed for smaller, weaker opponents, and women tend to be the smaller or weaker in a fight if it comes to one. I would say come in, have a first class and see how you feel. The more you come and the more muscle memory you get and the more you learn, especially about maintaining distance and keeping yourself safe, it might come in handy one day. I do not wish for myself to ever need to use the skills that I've gained, or I don't wish for anybody to be in a situation where they need to use self-defense. But it's always good to know some basics, especially in this day and age when it's just so easy for a girl to be attacked. I think girls have forgotten how dangerous the world can be. We definitely need to educate ourselves. What I enjoy about training the most, I would say, is the fact that the moment I come in and I step on the mat, I completely forget about all the stress and worries, because for an hour or an hour and a half you just think about the techniques and training with your partner and then sparring. You don't get to really think about anything else, so it's a great stress relief. And yeah, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is sort of like, it's not just sheer muscle, you have to learn a lot of technique. So some people refer to it as human chess, and I think that's quite a good comparison because you get to use your brain a lot more than you get to use your strength, definitely. So it's quite good martial art in terms of that, definitely.
So for me, the best thing about coaching is really seeing the progression in all the students. I see the guys come in through the door and day one, they can't really do anything, even the simple movements. But even in a short space of time, just seeing how far they've come, and then even seeing some of the guys on the main stage at big competitions and shows. So that's really one of the best things about being a coach, is just watching how people develop. It's also, you get some guys that struggle mentally at home with family issues, and I think from them starting the gym and getting involved in jiu-jitsu and any of the other sports, it really does change them, and it makes a big difference in their life at home. And I think that's another great thing about jiu-jitsu. So I'm very lucky as a gym owner because I've had the chance to pretty much travel all over the world. I've cornered people in fights, and I've cornered people at big jiu-jitsu tournaments. I was very fortunate to be able to go to the Ultimate Fighter finale, where one of the guys from our gym, Marcin Worsek, he was on the Ultimate Fighter, one of the early series, and he got all the way to the finale. Probably one of the best weekends of my life. McGregor versus Aldo, so you can't get a better card than that. I've had guys fight on the television. Dean Truman, who fights for Cage Warriors, he's fought all over the UK on big shows on telly. And then there's jiu-jitsu comps, which are pretty much every other weekend. And again, all over the country, sometimes abroad. The Euros are in Portugal, we've been there a few times. So yeah, there's lots of opportunity to train pretty much every weekend.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a good martial art because if you can get past the physical contact, so if you can look past that, being able to be up close with somebody, it's a good martial art to do because you don't get hurt. You can train all night, you can train for a couple of hours, and most of the time you can go home and you're not covered in bruises, you can go home to your normal job, and it's very physical and you get a lot of good exercise out of it. So you can train as hard as you like. This is the classic thing with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is why it's successful. You can train as hard as you like, and relatively speaking, you don't get injured.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in itself is really, really effective because it's so technical, and that's why it's probably one of the most difficult martial arts to learn, and it takes a long time to get very good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because of how technical it is and how much the sport's developed. Every day it's continually growing, changing, new positions, and that's why it's so effective. Compared to everything else, Jiu-Jitsu is still evolving, it's still in its infancy. Even today they're developing new moves and new ways of getting into different positions. And even from the early days, if you look at the early UFCs when the small guy was beating the big guy, it just shows you how effective it was. If you've got more knowledge than the other guy, it's pretty much going to overwhelm your opponent, and that's why it's so effective. So Jiu-Jitsu was built around the idea that the small guy can beat the bigger guy through technique, but obviously in a training environment, everybody's, in most cases, people have got the same technical knowledge, so then different factors come into it: strength, size, fitness and ability. So another thing that we like to do to improve our Jiu-Jitsu is keep a high level of fitness, and strength conditioning is really important to the sport, because obviously if you've got a similar knowledge to your opponent, then it's going to probably come down to who's got the better fitness, strength and flexibility in some respects. So we like to maintain our fitness by doing a lot of running, gym work, running up steps, lots of different things to keep the smaller muscles moving, and anything that can help towards the Jiu-Jitsu fights. So the great thing about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is it's almost like a language in itself, and wherever I've done Jiu-Jitsu in the world, it's always the same. Like, people used to think, oh, if you go out to Brazil, it's way better, the guys are much better, and it's really not the case. It's wherever you go, if there's a Jiu-Jitsu gym, it's pretty much the same, and that's the great thing about it. Like, you can go anywhere in the world to a gym, and you're going to find a similar bunch of guys. There's never really any egos in a Jiu-Jitsu gym. It just seems to make you a more humble person, and again, that's the great thing about the sport. It's brilliant.